Hi and Assalamualaikum everyone. I hope you're having a nice day. We are from group 2 going to present second question which is what are the six levels of cognitive domain based on revised version of Bloom taxonomy and some example of each level. And the second is the five levels of affective domain based on Krathwohl model and some example to support the explanation. And this is a five presenter of this group, which is my name is Siti Konima binti Ahmad Nasri and my metric number is 145613. First of all, I would like to present what is the Bloom taxonomy. Actually, Bloom taxonomy is made on 1956, which is Benjamin Bloom headed a group of educational psychologists who developed a classification system for levels of cognitive skills and learning behavior. As we can know, the word taxonomy means classifications or structures, which is Bloom taxonomy classifies thinking according to six level cognitive levels of complexity, as we can see at the right of the slide, which is start from bottom with knowledge and then comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. On 1990, which is Bloom taxonomy having a revise, which is Lauren Anderson and a group of cognitive psychologists updates this taxonomy, which is Lauren Anderson and his team has updated this Bloom taxonomy in 1990, which is made some changes in the terminology, structure, and emphasis. We will see what is the changes after this slide. But before this, what is the metacognition was added in the revised version, which is factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge. As we can see in the pyramid, this is the difference between 1956 here and the 1990 here, which is we can see the changes of the words and the changes of the level. Changes in terminology. Revised version changes the name of each six levels. The names of major cognitive process categories were changes to indicate action because thinking implies activities engagement. For example, the lowest level of the original knowledge was renamed as remembering. We can see here the changes of the terminology knowledge to remembering. This is important to note the change from nouns to verbs to describe different levels of taxonomy. Consequently, since the word knowledge inaccurately described a category of thinking, it was replaced with verb remembering. The next changes of the taxonomy on 1990 is structures, which is this revised taxonomy moved the evaluation stage down a level and the highest elements become creating. At the second to the highest level, people defend, support, justify, and evaluate their opinion on this information, while at highest level, people generate new ideas, create new product, or construct a new point of view. If you see here, actually on the 1956, the evaluation was at the top of the pyramid. And then in 1990, the Lauren Anderson and his group was changing the evaluation level to the second level and made the creating at the top because people generate new ideas, create new product, or construct a new point of view. The next changes in the taxonomy is emphasized. The revision emphasized the use of taxonomy as a tool for alignment of curriculum, planning, instructional delivery, and assessment. Additionally, their revisions is aimed at a broader audience, which is we can know the revised taxonomy has been universal to use and easily applicable at elementary, secondary as well as adult training. Actually, we will see one by one what is the taxonomy has changes, which is start with remembering and then understanding and so on. First of all, what is the remembering? Remembering is exhibits previously learned materials by recalling facts, terms, basic concepts, and answers. Retrieving, recognizing, and recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. This level is simply remembering or recalling previous learned information, which is the learner need to recognize and recall what has the learner learned before this. As example objective then that we can achieve in the remembering is, by the end of the topic, learner will be able to know Newton's three laws of motion. An example of assessment we can give to learner is list Newton's three laws of motion. We can see here, as a remembering level, the learner will be able to know and recognize some information that they have gained before this. In the bubble map here, this show that action verbs that recognized or include in remembering level, which is list, name, identify, show, define, recognize, and recall. The second level of Bloom taxonomy revise is understanding. Understanding is demonstrating understanding of facts and ideas by organizing, comparing, illustrating, interpreting, giving descriptions, and stating main ideas. Constructing meaning from oral, written, and graphic messages through interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. This is essentially demonstrating understanding of information by explaining ideas or concepts. In this level, the learner need to understand what they have learned before, what the topic that they have learned, and maybe give some describing of the topic. Example objective that we can achieve is, by the end of the topic, learner will be able to explain and interpret Newton's three laws of motion in their own understanding. An example assessment we can give to the learner is write a simple explanation on what is Newton's three laws of motion based on your understanding. What we can highlight in this level is what are what the learner can describe or maybe list something from what they have learned before based on their understanding. The action verbs we can see here is the restate, summarize, interpret, discuss, describe, explain, paraphrase. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. My name is Nur Tasnim Aina binti Harun, and now I'm going to continue the presentation by explaining the third and fourth level of cognitive domain based on the revised Bloom taxonomy and their examples. The third level in the revised Bloom taxonomy is applying. Applying means that the ability for a student to solve the problem by applying their acquired knowledge, facts, techniques, and rule in a different way. In this level, we want to measure either the student can apply their knowledge about the topic that they have learned in a new situation or not. So some of the action verbs that can be used is apply, calculate, carry out, classify, complete, demonstrate, examine, or execute. Here are some examples of applying based on the physics subtopic. The first one is example of objective. By the end of this topic, the student will be able to calculate the kinetic energy of the projectile. It means that after a student learns about the kinetic energy, such as equation of kinetic energy, the student able to apply the equation to solve the problem in a different situation given by their teachers. The next is the example of activity that can be done by a teacher in a class. After presenting about the kinetic energy equation, the teacher can give the students some question related to the topic so that they can apply the equation and practice using it before the actual assessment. The last one is the example of assessment. Calculate the kinetic energy of the projectile. This is an example of question that can be given by the teacher to the student through the examination or test to measure their understanding about the topic and to see either the objective is achieved or not. The action word that used in this question is calculate. The next is the fourth level in the revised Bloom taxonomy, which is analyzing. Analyzing means examining and breaking acquired information into parts to get the better understanding. In this level, the student should understand the various parts of the topic so that they're able to differentiate them and know how the parts are related to each other. The action verbs that can be used is analyze, compare, contrast, differentiate, distinguish, categorize, and classify. The example objective of analyzing for the physics subtopic is, by the end of this course, the student will be able to differentiate between potential and kinetic energy. In the physics subtopic, we not only learn about the kinetic energy, but also another energy such as potential energy and mechanical energy. So the student should understand well about each of these energy so that they can differentiate them and know how they are related to each other. So the example activity that can be done is present the students with different situations involving energy and ask them to categorize the energy as either kinetic or potential energy. The last example is example of assessment. Construct a table to differentiate between kinetic energy and potential energy. So this is also other example of question that can be given to the student through the test or examination to measure whether they understand it well or not about the topic and to see to make the conclusion either our objective is achieved or not. So in this example, the action verbs that has been used is differentiate. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi to Dr. Sama and all my fellow friends. I am Wanu Bazli Mitibadru Hisham and I'm going to present about the fifth and the last level of Bloom's taxonomy revise, which are evaluating and creating. Evaluate. Evaluate is make judgments based on criteria and standards. This level highlights that students should be able to justify their own idea based on the criteria. Teacher should ask the student to present and defend their own opinions by making judgments about information, validity of ideas, or quality of work based on a set of criteria. The example for objective under this level is, by the end of the course, the student will be able to determine whether kinetic energy or potential energy included in a system. This objective encourages students to give their opinion based on the criteria that has been learned. The example for activity is, teacher can form a few groups of students and ask them to solve the same problem by using the different methods. After that, they can each group need to present the pros and cons of the method they choose. The example for assessment is, on a test, describe a dynamic system and ask the students which method they would use to solve the problem, and they need to explain why they want to choose that. As we can see in this level, we want to measure either the student can relate their knowledge to judge the value of information and ideas. As we can see, these are the action verbs that can be used under evaluate, which are choose, support, relate, determine, defend, judge, grade, compare, contrast, argue, justify, support, and convince. Lastly, the last level for Bloom's taxonomy revised is create. Create is put elements together to form a new coherent or functional whole. Reorganize elements into a new pattern or structure. This level highlights that the student can be creative and innovative with the knowledge that they learned. These are the action verbs under create level, which are modify, assemble, build, construct, create, design, develop, formulate, generate, integrate, invent, rearrange, reconstruct, and synthesize. So this is the example for objective. By the end of the lesson, the student will be able to develop new alternatives to easy out chores by using kinetic energy and potential energy. For activity example, teacher can form a group and ask the student to modify a model involving conservation of energy or conservation of momentum. This level, teachers should encourage their students to combine the parts to make a new whole. Lastly, the example for assessment is, in a test, students need to design a new system using kinetic energy and potential energy. So, the highlight of this level is a student need to be creative and innovative to form something new with the knowledge that has been taught to them. That is the answer for question A. After that, for question B, my friends Yohana Anissa and Sarah Sazali will explain to you. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi to Dr. Samah and all my friends. I am Yohana Anissa binti Suhandi Al-Azhar. Now I will explain to you about question B. The question is explain the 5 levels of affective domain based on Krathwohl model. Give examples to support your explanation. To begin, let me introduce to you David Krathwohl, who is an American educational psychologist. He creates Krathwohl taxonomy, which is a model that used to describe how individuals process the learning objective based on affective domain and emotional level. From dictionary or Google, we can find the meaning of affective is relating to emotional, feelings, moods, and attitudes. From this model, we know that learning process depends on how much students emotionally charge, so students' attitudes and feelings can be seen as the results of learning process. Because of that, teachers should include motivation as one of the learning objectives that need to be measured. We have 5 levels or stages of affective domain. The levels that we are going to discuss right now are receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and characterizing. Receiving is the simplest level among the others before moving to another stages until characterizing, which is the most complex level. Now we begin with receiving level. On this level, students attend to a particular stimuli. The stimuli is supposed to be the learning session. This level happens when students are willing to receive or gain the ideas by focusing, listening, and reading to the lecture. These actions show the students are being sensitive or aware to certain topics or ideas that are being shared during the lecture. For instructors' point of view, teachers are getting or directing students' attention. As example, at this time, most of students are willing to focus or listen carefully to this video to gain the new ideas and knowledge about this topic. Thus, receiving level is focusing on simple awareness and selective attention. We're also going to look at the verbs that use to express the learning outcomes. The verbs are understand, select, describe, and identify. Here is my example for the learning outcome. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to understand logic gates concept. That is the example that I may use one day as a physics teacher. Next, we move to responding level, which is the second stage of Krathwohl model. On this level, students start to react or respond in the lecture as the results of their understanding before. When they are interested into certain topics or ideas that are being shared during the lecture before, they will follow, comment, contribute, and also be a volunteer to get more and detailed information. If most of students are actively participating themselves, it will produce a very good responding. For instructor's standpoint, teachers are encouraging students in participating on a voluntary level. As example, question and answer session that usually be held by the presenters at the end of the class session surely encourage the students to react or interact among them, and also will indirectly measure their level of understanding. Because of that, responding level is focusing on individuals' interests, seeking, and enjoyment. The verbs that are suitable to use to express the learning outcomes are assist, grade, perform, tell, and write. Here is my example for the learning outcome. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to write all the important equations that are related to simple harmonic motion, which is also a topic from physics subject. Then we are moving to valuing level, which is the third stage of Krathwohl model and also where the advanced level begins. In dictionary, value is similar to importance, worth, or usefulness of something. On this level, students are not just receiving and responding to a particular topic, but also attach value to that topic. For instructor's point of view, teachers help students by discussing the new ideas and also decide some potential ways for them to use the idea. For example, students consider the subjects or topics that had been taught during the class session as something important, and they feel from the inner side or from the deepest part of their heart that the subject's activities such as the assignments, projects, quizzes, or any task that given by the teachers very useful or valuable and also beneficial for the future, especially for the grading. Alright, because of that, valuing level is focusing on attitude and appreciation. The learning outcomes, the verbs that used to express the learning outcomes are complete, explain, justify, and share. Example for the learning outcome is at the end of the lesson, students should be able to share the main point of mechanical wave, which is also the topic from physics subject. And we will continue to organizing and characterizing level that will present by Sarah. That's all from me. Thank you.
So hi and good morning everyone. My name is Siti Sarah binti Zali. My metric number is 148270. So today I will continue this presentation with the fourth stage of the affective domain, which is organizing. So organizing is accept different viewpoints, compare it and relate with other values. So in other words, we can say that when the student learns something new, the new information, they will integrate the new information and values it into their own set of values. So for the example is debate session in the classroom. So let's say the teacher made her student doing a debate session about arguing about exercise. Doing an exercise will help you to improve in your study or not. So in that session, in that time, the student will exchange their different opinion about that. Whether they agree with the argument or not, they will state their opinion. So in that session, automatically the student will learn how to accept the different viewpoints or the different opinions of the other pupils, compare it, and relate it with other values. So in this stage, the learning outcomes are integrate, arrange, combine, and relate. So the fifth stage are characterizing, the last stage for affective domain, which is internalize and believe in the value. After student knows the benefits of the value, they will adapt the value and try to make it part of their personality. So for the example, after finish the debate session about the exercises, the student knows the benefit of doing the exercises for their subject that they learn in school. so they will try to practice it in their daily life. Maybe they will do 10 questions for one subject per day. So the learning outcome in this stage is listen, influence, modify, verify, and practice. So move to the next slide is differences. Differences between cognitive domain and affective domain. So first is we can difference these two domains when the cognitive domains are more to the ability to process information. So the person's ability to process information, which is most related to the brain system, while the affective domains are more to the emotional, more to the person's emotions, what the student thinks, what the student feels. Cognitive domain have 6 stages, which is knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. While affective domain have only 5 stages, which is receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and characterizing. So for the conclusion, the affective domain is very important in the learning process, but they receive a little attention from most teachers, whether it from school or from college or university. There are so many teachers that only focus in cognitive, which is their lecture seems a bit boring and don't generate any interest by students. Therefore, it is hoped that after this presentation, we as the future teacher are aware of the importance of these two domains and will improve our teaching method so that the lecture occur more effectively. So that's it from our group. Thank you.